Hi, it's James here. I am at Hog and Tallow with Emma, who makes the soap from our goat fat, and I know nothing about how to make soap, and that I assume maybe wrongly, but that might mean that you don't as well. So I bought the camera to speak to Emma about how to make soap. So talk me through it.
Okay.
Just absolute layman's terms, how do you make soap?
Okie dokie. So basically, soap, traditional soap, is made really from fat, from water, and from lye, which is like an alkaline caustic soda.
Yes.
And the fat that we use is tallow.
So this is our goat.
Yes, it is.
So is tallow specific to beef, or is that a word you can use for all?
It's a word you can use for sheep fat,
right.
for deer fat. So that is a mix. So the hard white is your goat fat.
Yeah.
And all I've done is taken the raw fat from the kidneys.
Yeah.
So, and then rendered it down in the oven, and then literally that's hardened. So that's all that is.
Right. Okay.
And then I've mixed it with a soft oil. So when you're making soap, you want a hard fat and you want a soft oil as well. If I just used tallow, it would be an incredibly hard, quite harsh soap.
Yeah.
So you want the oils to kind of soften and to become nourishing.
So would that mean that when you wash your hands with it wouldn't lather?
Not particularly, no. So
Right,
different
okay.
oils and different fats have different properties.
Yeah.
And so when you look at kind of soap making in general, coconut oil will have different properties to castor oil, to sunflower oil, to olive oil, which are all fabulous soap making oils. But our choice is to use the traditional tallow with a local rapeseed, so they've got a really small carbon footprint on the fats that we're using.
So we are just on that. We are about 3, maybe 2.5 miles away from the farm that these goats came from, and the goats were killed at Snells, which is about 6 miles from here.
Oh yeah, really close. Yeah.
So
no, I would say it's probably about 3.
Oh, is it even closer?
Even closer.
Okay, so that's about 3 miles from farm to slaughterhouse, and then back to Emma here.
Yeah.
And the goats that this fat is from went to Coombe Farm and available on their website, which is Coombe Farm's probably about 5 miles from here.
Yeah.
So everything was within sort of 5 or 6 miles, which is great. So this is this house soap has been made
hundreds of years ago.
So what are the differences between what you do now versus what was done then?
So the only kind of difference really is the lye element.
Yeah.
So lye is what makes soap. It can't be classed as like a proper soap if it hasn't got lye in it.
Yeah.
And lye here is the caustic soda. It's a high alkaline, and I'm going to need in a moment when I start dealing with it. I'm going to put my gloves on.
So that is now obviously a chemical that you buy, but where would you get that from before there was a chemical industry?
So before there was a chemical industry, it would have been water leached through hardwood ashes.
Through charcoal?
So hardwood, yeah, essentially, yes. So the ashes from a fire that have leached the water and kind of taken off the lye water and used it. Now the reason we don't do that now is this is, I'm going to put my gloves on when we start dealing with it, is because you need to know the potency of the lye, because the lye is going to cause a chemical reaction to turn this fat into soap. So it won't be fat at the end. It will have gone through saponification, which is the science word.
Saponification? Saponification.
Yeah.
Right.
And that will have changed this fat into soap. And while it's doing it, while it's breaking down the fatty acids, what it's doing is, so there should be no lye left over at the end of the process.
Right.
If there is, your soap's lye heavy.
So in the same way that wood isn't the same thing as charcoal once it's been through a cooking or a distillation, soap isn't the same thing as fat because it's been through this process.
It's been through a chemical process, and it's the lye that does that, and there shouldn't be, it will be used up in that process. So it will produce heat, it will get really hot, and then so that kind of, the fatty smell, the fatty texture will not exist.
So you add that to that and then water.
Well, I'm going to add that to water first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and this will all have been weighed out properly. So that's why you can't, that's why if you're selling soap, that kind of leaching the water, we wouldn't have any idea how potent it was, and it's a really fine calculation to get your lye water fat ratio.
So you could do it and kind of budget for yourself,
you could
but for a project
to sell, you would have to be really careful, because this is exactly measured out for the fat, so that it's all gone at the end of the process. So this is where I'm going to put my goggles on.
Sciencey bit.
Sciencey bit. Got my goggles on. So I'm going to open the door because it does release fumes.
Right. Okay.
Are you right if I walk away there?
Yeah. Fine.
So you might want to stand by the door.
All right.
And the other thing I'm going to put on is a mask, unless you would like a mask.
Is it going to bubble and stuff?
Not particularly.
Okay.
It will fizz a little bit, but we have to be safe because it could burn your skin.
All right.
So if you want
we'll
to
do a bit of a close up for this.
I'm going to go all misty. Lovely. So I'm just going to pour it in and then give it a stir. And that's immediately going to heat up.
How hot does it get?
It can get sort of close to 100 degrees.
Wow.
And we want it, so we want I should be heating this fat up really. We want our fat and our lye water to be the similar temperature, so I'm going to put that on there. But it does take a while for this to cool down, so I'm going to put that.
We'll be back in a minute. So you've melted the fat and you've added the lye.
Not yet.
Right.
That's in the fridge still.
Oh, okay.
So we've melted this. So basically we want the heated oils and fats to be a similar temperature to the lye water, because there's been a chemical reaction that's created heat.
Yeah.
So this is, we usually soap at between 40 and 60 degrees. So
Yeah.
this is sort of about 50.
So that really smells like cooking fat now.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But that
yeah,
will
yeah.
completely disappear where you can smell the soaps around. It doesn't
Yeah.
smell like that at the end. So that is the rapeseed oil and the tallow. Beautiful golden.
That smell makes me think I'm about to roast potato.
It does, doesn't it? It's delicious, I know.
Definitely.
And it's against all odds to the lovely geranium
Yeah,
smells,
absolutely.
I know. So then what we can do is get our lye water out, which will have
That
cooled
is
down.
right.
Can
Okay.
you feel the heat on that
Yeah,
one?
definitely.
Mm.
So are these temperatures important? They need to be.
Yeah, they need to be similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if they're not?
It's just you want them to be the same. So essentially, your mix is going to be a consistent temperature. So this doesn't completely cool down the oil, or the oil
Right,
completely,
okay.
because you want it around 50
Yeah.
degrees C to kind of get that reaction started. If it's too cold, it will kind of impede the soap making process.
Sure.
So this is just about right. So this is, you can go 10 degrees, kind of, either way.
Yeah,
5, 10 degrees either way, but you want it to be lovely stuff.
Just the little break that we had wasn't like an hour or anything. It was,
No.
It was 5 minutes.
Not at all. So now what we're going to do, so I might just, because I've got my nice
Yeah.
melted oils, I've got my lye water, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to pop it together. But I'm going to do it in the bowl. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry.
It's all right.
Pop it over there.
So has that tallow been through a sieve or?
It's going to go through. It has been already.
Right.
Once it's rendered
Yeah.
and poured off, it's sieved. But I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
So I'm going to put the oil in first. Sorry, disappearing.
That's all right. Pick that up and have a quick look over there.
Just make sure I get all the good bits. There we go. And then I'm going to pop that in. Okay. And then we're looking to blitz them together with a blender.
Oh, because you can see they've separated.
Exactly, and you want them to emulsify.
Okay.
So, okay. Nice trusty blender.
Yeah.
Okay, so stand. There we go, and you see
Yeah.
it starts to get nice and creamy.
Yeah.
Now this is still quite liquid, but you can see it's come together.
Yeah.
Some soapers will go and go and go. It's called trace, and basically it'll go really thick like custard. And then when you pour it into the mould, you can play with it and make peaks and troughs and mixed colours.
Yeah.
But we're quite simple, so we quite like to keep it at a very light trace.
So the more you mix it, the harder it'll go.
It will get,
Right.
the
Okay.
thicker it will
Fine.
get. You can still feel that heat. It's
Yeah.
generating that heat. Keep mixing it. So you want to make sure there's no kind of oil on top, that it's all in.
Yeah. Bring it closer. How long would it take for it to start to thicken?
So I'm nearly ready for what we want to do, but
Okay.
it would take maybe another, probably, if you want it really thick, sort of 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. So, I'm just really do you mind passing me that bowl of oil?
No. So you got the camera back down again. This one.
Yes, so this is our essential oil.
Oh, okay. Actually, we'll pop around there.
There we go, that is lavender essential oil, so this is where we scent it. Now there are lots of kind of fragrances you can put in, synthetic fragrances,
Yeah.
but we always go for pure essential oils because we want it to be as simple and natural as possible.
I'm going to smell it.
What do you think?
Still a little hint
A
of
little bit, but not
yeah.
as much.
Yeah. But the curing process will take
That's,
that.
you'll
Right,
notice,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
So these soaps here, you'll know,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
smell a bit at all. They don't feel fatty. So it literally has changed. When you're looking on the label, it won't say tallow, it will say sodium tallowate.
Yeah.
It's completely changed.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So one more bit, and then we're going to put our lovely essential oil in. And this is really what will scent it. The kind of herbs and things you steep in the oil, they're not going to have the scent. Is not their properties will be in the soap, but the scent won't, because that lye will. You know. Okay. And then we just gently. Well, you can see it's still quite liquidy, but it has got that kind of almost double cream.
Yeah. That's what
but if I'd have kept on blitzing, it would have got thicker and thicker. So
why is it just for ease of pouring that you choose this?
Because we are pouring each soap into these. If it's too thick, and it will get thicker as I'm pouring as well, because the heat is.
So like on an industrial scale, they just whip it and whip it and whip it and whip it, and then use a cutter.
They put it in these huge cuboid kind of moulds, and then they'd get this thing called an air cutter that literally whoosh, whoosh, and it's amazing to watch if you watch it on YouTube. Or, but also it's really important to kind of. So if you think this is literally just got tallow, rapeseed.
So talk me through what happens now once you pour them all out. How long until it's soap? Because it goes into you leave it to cure now.
We do.
And that takes how long?
4 to 6 weeks.
And it does what? So
it basically makes the soap milder, harder, and safe to use.
Right.
Because the lye will still be doing its job for maybe 24, 48 hours.
So that chemical is still reacting with the fat,
it's still heating, so it'll be hot for a little while.
Right.
Now.
Okay.
But it will be tomorrow morning. It will be hard. I usually leave it 24, 48 hours before I pop it out of the mould, and it's hard enough to do that. And the lye should have done its job, but we wouldn't use it because it would just be too soft.
Right.
And you want the water to evaporate as well to make it nice and hard. So basically, it's like a good cheese or a salami. The longer you leave it, the hotter the better it gets.
And that. So how long? I mean, essentially, is that set and will last forever? I mean,
the scent does after sort of a year. The scent starts to fade a little bit,
okay.
But basically, it's not. It's not. Sometimes you can get. All things. You can have a bad batch of things, but because you are using fat oils after all. But generally, it's pretty tough stuff, and the tallow makes such a nice, hard, long-lasting bar.
Yeah.
And it's not a gimmicky thing to use either, because we were a bit worried when we first started. Tallow, it's the traditional fat to use, but why really? Well, it's a waste product locally, and it's the most amazing skin fat, because it's similar to our skin fat.
So just on that, like commercial soaps, if they're not registered as vegan soaps, will all be.
They won't all, but if they've not got the vegetarian kind of symbol on, have a look at the label. You're looking for sodium tallowate, and that will tell you if it's got tallow in it, and a lot of them do, because I suppose people aren't thinking or questioning.
I mean, it's kind of on a theme that we return to a lot is the detachment from the food system. And we talk about it with Jack and the Billy Tannery and the leather, and him saying people don't associate leather with meat. And people just do not associate beauty products. Essentially.
No, lipsticks. You have to know what you're looking for or question what you're buying. And essentially, when we first started out, we were thinking, what will people think? Because we don't want it as a gimmicky thing. It's good because it's so good for your skin. We're animals, and it is so similar to our fat layer. And it's got all the vitamins and minerals your skin needs. Brilliantly moisturising. It really keeps the moisture in. And in America, they love tallow. So if you have a look online, there's so many brilliant small companies that are using really good tallow, and it's a really big thing over there. So
this is fantastic. So this is now lavender oil goat fat soap.
Yeah.
And it took what, 20 minutes?
Easy, yeah. And that's a small batch. Normally we're making in our big pans, so we can make a lot more. But
and for the curing, you said it will take what?
4 to 6 weeks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks, and it just gets. And then we always, to make sure, obviously, with that lye, make sure the lye's all eaten up. We pH test it before sale to make sure it's completely safe.
Yeah.
To ensure that we haven't got any kind of lye heavy soaps. And then it's wrapped, very minimal wrapping, environmentally friendly, recycled wrapping, and ready to go. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
No, my pleasure.
Brilliant.
Yes.